Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Triangle Trade and its effect on America. But before we do, just of course, one more reminder that today's lesson is paired with this worksheet right here. So make sure you're filling in this chart based on what you're seeing in the map, and then you have the reading down here with a couple of questions added on. So now, for one more time before you guys take the test on Wednesday, here's your favorite part of the lesson. So we have here down in the red, what European country controls this territory. And then up here in the green, what European country controls that territory. And then getting to the 13 colonies, which colony is this? And which colony do we see here? And which colony do we see here? And speaking of Georgia, we had that little reading quiz that we took last week where we learned about some of the reasons why Georgia was created. And as you may recall, the major reason why Georgia was created was because of its location. It was right next to Spanish Florida. So one of the things that was concerning the English king at the time was that if Spain wanted to attack the 13 colonies, that the easiest way for them to do that would be coming in from the south because they controlled the southern territory in Florida. And so one of the reasons why he created the colony of Georgia, he sent a lot of troops there in order to protect the other 13 colonies from Spanish attack. So in addition to it being a military barrier, we talked about in the reading, the second reason would be that they wanted to create a place for debtors to go. Now, if you didn't know beforehand, the English system of justice in those times, if you owed a large amount of debt, one of the things that a debt collector could do is have you thrown into what's called a debtor's prison. It's just like a regular prison. They made you work off your debt until you had no more, and then you were released from the prison. But it was almost a crime to be in debt. So one of the things that England decided to do was start sending these people that were in debt to other places. This way they wouldn't be causing problems in England. So they sent them to Georgia and they sent them to Australia also. But the idea was that this would give them also a second opportunity to be more successful. So they started this colony in Georgia and a lot of debtors went there. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about how there were so many problems, though, with the way that Georgia was run, that people really didn't like some of the harsh rules that were put in place, trying to protect the debtors from accruing more debt. But now that brings us to today's lesson, and what today's lesson is all about is this map right here, which is called the Triangle Trade.
Mr. Seiler, I don't get why they called it the Triangle Trade.
Well, there's this, and it's a trade. So, yeah. But just to go through the idea of what's going on here, it's a transatlantic trade between North America, Africa, and Europe. Now, just to be clear, this map focuses on the English triangle trade. You will see a different triangle trade for the Spanish and the French that also had colonies in North America. The major differences are going to be what you're going to get on the North American side. The other two things are going to stay roughly the same. Things going out of Africa are going to mostly be slaves. Things going into Africa are going to mostly be weapons, and manufactured goods going back into America. But the Spanish would take different things from America, and that's the major difference for that. But if we focus on the items and where they went, this is the chart that you should roughly have in front of you of what items were being sent to where. So now if we were to take a second here and actually look at the items and what places are getting what things, it starts to make some sort of relationship make sense between the items that you're looking at. Now, for example, if you look over here in Africa, it says guns, alcohol, and tools. Now, at first, those three things might not go together until you kind of remember what the major product was that was being sent out of Africa, which of course is African slaves. Now, the reason why guns are so important for that is because one of the things that they did is they would trade with the West African kingdoms, and then those kingdoms wanted European technologies, wanted European guns, so this way that they can continue the wars that they had with the tribes that were to the east of them and to the south of them. And then as they attacked and took new territory there, they would take prisoners of war, and then those prisoners of war would be traded to European traders, which would then make those people into slaves in American colonies. So now that kind of explains why the guns is there. Now that relates to the slaves, which comes over to the American colonies. Now the American colonies, obviously, that slaves is going to translate to large agricultural products because the slaves were used in plantations where they grew tobacco, indigo, rice, those agricultural products. And then those products were then sent back to Europe to be sold and traded for money, and which brought money into the Americas. Now that also is a reason why manufactured goods comes into the Americas along with luxury items. Now luxury items are things that you don't need but you want. And the reason why that happens is because, well, if you're going to be wealthy in America, you kind of want to live like a wealthy person in America. And so when you came to America, you wanted to make sure you had the same comforts that you would have had if you were a wealthy person living in England. So they shipped them back over here. Now, as for the raw materials part of this, that also plays the reverse moment in the manufactured goods section on this thing. Because if you look here for a second, the raw materials that are being sent over to England, because England has factories at this time, America doesn't have many for a couple more years because they have to start building them before they can have that system in place. So they send their raw materials like your lumber, your iron, and your cotton back to England, and then England takes those things and they turn them into different products. Now, in this case here, I'm turning it into a ship. Yes, New England did have a large shipbuilding industry, but you also had things like tables and chairs and all these other items that needed to be made over in England and then sent back to the Americas. Now, one of the things that benefits this from England is because if you're selling the goods back to America, you're getting them at a higher price because you're buying the raw materials, turning them into a finished product, and then selling them back to those people. Kind of think about it like this. If you were to go out and make yourself dinner, you go out and you buy a raw piece of chicken, that's the raw material, and then it might cost you like $3 or $4 for that piece of raw chicken. But if you go to a restaurant and you get that same chicken, but it's cooked for you this time, you have to pay for the food, but you also are paying kind of the chef and the waiter and the rent on that too. So it's not going to be $3 or $4. It's going to be $5, $6, $7, $8, maybe even $12 for just a piece of chicken. So that's kind of the same thing here and how England is making money off of this trade. So just take a second here and copy down these notes into your notebook. So now the last part of today's lesson was really about the system of trade that happened between these things and why and how it benefited the European countries. And the real reason behind it has to deal with the relationship between what's called mother countries and colonies. Now, mother countries, as you can see by the yellow circle there, are going to be your Englands, your France, your Spain, even Portugal to some extent. And then the colonies are the places around the world where these countries go out, they conquer the land, they take it over, but then they send the things that are being made there back to the mother countries, or the things that they discover or take from there and back to the mother countries. So now again, if we can just take a second and copy down these definitions. So now, for example, if you want to know about the idea of how this benefits the mother country, all you have to do is think about what we did with Spain. When we talked about Spain, Spain first comes over and they establish colonies in Hispaniola and Cuba, and they send things back to Spain. So in this case, they were looking for gold, so we're just going to use gold as the example. But then they went into Mexico, and as they went into Mexico, they send more gold back. And then they went to South America, and they send more gold back. Further into South America, more gold back. And as they're sending all this wealth back, Spain becomes a richer and wealthier country, and they're able to build more naval vessels and take over more land and buy more soldiers and expand their empire even further. And that's kind of the way that it worked for the other countries as well, including the French and the English. So they would go over and they'd find the valuable items that they were interested in. For the French, it's going to be the fur trade. For the English, they're going to be using more raw material, things like trees and lumber, because this helps them build their navy. And it all gets sent back to the home country. So this way the home countries can continue to make money and profit off of their foreign colonies. Now, this is going to be good for the colonies in a sense, because it does, the people that are living there are going to get some money off of this, but at the same time, you have to remember that they exist to benefit the home country. And that's how the home countries or the mother countries view them. They only exist so that we can become wealthier as a country. And so, that's the concept that we call mercantilism. The system of controlled trade where the mother country profits from trade with its colonies. So once again, the idea is that the mother country is the one that is going to benefit from all of this trade. And they're going to design systems that make sure that they're benefiting from the trade. And that's what we're going to get into in the next chapter. the idea that England should be benefiting from the 13 colonies in America, and then the resistance that the 13 colonies have to the systems that England's trying to put in place in order to create this. But for right now, we're going to leave it here, so make sure you're studying for your test. We'll review tomorrow, and the test will be on Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your day. Seiler out.